Hello, and welcome to Knights of the Night Actual Play Podcast. This 5th edition D&D adventure, The Heretic, was written and run by your DM, Scott. And now, please enjoy episode 495, titled, You're Already a Sinner, Darling. Actual play begins immediately.
Hello everyone, I'm your DM Scott for this 5e adventure, The Heretic. With me tonight, starting on my right, is...
I'm Tom, I'm playing Alder Rusha. I'm a human male cleric of Amira and a skill-seeking rogue.
Hi, I'm Mike, and I'm playing Marduk, a male half-orc fighter, graduate of the Academy, and an Eldritch Knight of the Fist of Amira.
I am Jim playing Grodor. He is a hobgoblin warlock and one of the exhausted fists of Amira searching for truth, knowledge, and war eagle urine.
I'm John. I'm playing Melody, female human cleric, third of the exemplar family Harmony. I'm an ex-ambassador turned political operative by way of the Fists of Amira, and I am here to supply your darkest desire, Grodor.
I'm Thomas. I'll be playing Gabrielle d'Angelis. She's a female Azamar paladin and a holy fist of Amira whose belief in the importance of our collective destiny drives her ever onward towards her fated oath of conduct.
All right, where we left off last week, we had the group traversing the Iron Sword Pass. There was some conversation about Gabrielle's wings and what that meant for the group, and some conversation about communication and just kind of some uncertainty as to secrets being kept and what was going on there. But the group worked it out, and they continued on their path ever eastward and ever southward through the pass, in which they came upon the Redlands. The Redlands being a barren, rocky, red soil type of area that is very inhospitable. It was soon realized as you pushed yourselves further and further to try to increase your distance that exhaustion was setting in and you needed to get camped for the night. While you were making camp, you noticed that 2 Draxus, large feline beasts that haunt the Redlands and prey on humanoids, a type of apex predator, if you will, was stalking your location. Through some quick thinking and some prior purchase of aforementioned war eagle urine, it was laid out in an arc to the north of your camp so that the wind would take it towards the Draxus and hopefully dissuade them. Where we left off is the Draxus were approaching the urine scent and were growling and kind of uncertain as to what to do. So we'll pick back up right there.
I think I established that I was putting armor on. I don't know if Marduk ever did.
Originally, when you first saw them, they were about a mile away. They weren't rushing you. They were kind of stalking you as they were moving forward. So there was more than enough time for those of you with armor to put the armor back on if you wanted. Gabrielle, I remember you doing so. Marduk, is that something that you wanted to do?
Yes, I want to put my armor on, and it should take about 3 minutes, I think, to put on armor under normal circumstances.
Right. Which means that you are clasping up your last clasp as they come upon the urine and react in their undecided way. Was there anything else that any of you were doing I thought there was other plans involved with the urine, but I don't want to set your course for you. If you're happy with just the urine, that'll work as well.
No, I intended to make a war eagle cry.
Yes, that's right. And luckily you were just in Iron Sword, the city, and had heard plenty of war eagle cries, not so much when you were in the library, but just throughout your travel through the streets. It's a common occurrence.
Offers her expertise because she was all up in the business of those war eagles as they were jousting in order to
very good.
Look.
So I give a few samples, like this, or like this, like this.
But without thaumaturgy enhancement, so it sounds kind of quiet.
Well, yeah, but I'm going to do thaumaturgy. I just want to do the right noise.
Closest, but you need to really ululate your vowels, get your tongue all waggling.
I can do that.
For that laden with young cry.
I think.
As you could see from the battle map, to the north of you, the Draxus are about 20, 25 feet from where the urine was laid down and the wind has taken it. Some of you are 15 feet beyond that. Some of you are 20, 25 feet beyond that. On an incline, a flat-topped incline that's about 25 feet above the rest of the terrain. The Draxus, they see prey and they're hungry, and they're going to try to forge on. And just as they get their courage and decide to move forward another step, that's, I think, all there is when you decide to unleash the War Eagle cry.
The spell itself just modifies the noise that I make 3 times louder, so if I'm trying to make a specific one, it's more of a performance than a spell. The spell just happens.
Are you good at performance, Mothfire?
Not terribly good, but I'm assuming that I might be able to use a advantage since Gabrielle was just giving me a little help. Or is that incorrect?
Yeah, that's actually correct. If Gabrielle takes her turn to try to aid you, to give you help, then it gives you advantage on your roll. So I'm going to certainly allow that. Go ahead and make a performance check with advantage to see how well convinced the Draxus are of your imitation.
Can I give you guidance?
I believe you can. My performance roll is a 13.
All right.
And the additional is 2 for a total of 15.
The Draxus were willing to overcome their fear of the urine smell, at least initially, to get closer. But the War Eagle cry at that point is going to be their DC to have to try to fight through it in order to continue on with the attack. So your 15 is the DC that they need to make.
They had disadvantage?
I think they would have disadvantage because of the fact that
Multiple signs of their predator.
There's multiple signs of the predator, right? It's not just one thing where it was, hey, I smell War Eagle, but I don't see anything in the sky. Now it's, I hear War Eagle too. I still can't see them, but I hear them, I smell them. Okay, I need to fight through this, or not. I'm going to go with Wisdom. 2 dice, 20. Add 1. They rolled a 14, which would have been a success with their +1, would have been a 15. They would have matched your performance and would have fought through it. But they also rolled a 1, which is an abysmal failure. The first Draxus just hunches down close to the ground, almost lays flat, looking up towards the sky when it hears the War Eagle scream, and then turns and bolts and just disappears. It completely abandons its partner and runs away. The second Draxus rolled a 16, which would have been a success, and a 2. So much like its partner, it just becomes rattled when it hears the scream of the War Eagle. The fact it can't see them does not matter. It turns and it bolts directly to the north away from you as well. So both Draxus, these large predators the size of a horse that would have been very deadly to attack, through your smart moves and good ideas and just fantastic job, you scare them away without having a battle. They literally flee and don't stop running until they are out of the actual sight of you.
Who had the War Eagle urine? Was that Melody?
Was Melody.
Yeah, Melody purchased that.
Oh, high five for Eagle urine. Well done.
I hold my hand back. You don't want to touch this right now.
Big thumbs up. Way to save us a whole fight.
A nice War Eagle sound. That was pretty cool.
Do we know enough about these animals since we are all kind of exhausted? Did we just clear this area so this actually might be a safe place to get some rest now?
Perhaps
these
a
are
nature roll by Marduk?
I'll do it, but maybe somebody with a better...
Grodor. I don't know who has the better nature roll, but I think
Grodor had the best roll last week when it came to deciphering what the Draxus were all about.
Well, as it turns out, Marduk rolled a natural 20, so...
There you go.
Yeah. Marduk knows a lot about predators being startled and scared. That's something that he certainly is well aware of from his previous experiences. He feels that they were so terrified, you would be stunned if they returned before the morning light.
Then I say that it looks like not only did we scare them off, but we probably bought ourselves some downtime here. So some of us are tired, and we already pushed on enough as it is. So let's rest up, get some shut-eye, because we're going to have to get rolling pretty early as it is.
Yeah, camping by this War Eagle smell is probably a good thing for any other predator that's in the area.
It clears the sinuses, so
yeah, it does
good
that
for
too.
everybody. All right.
Well, excellent. So you eat some dinner, you set up watches. As nightfall occurs and the sun sets over the Middle Ridge peaks to your west now, all seems calm, relaxing and resting for the night. Who has the first watch?
Who's not exhausted? I know I was.
I wasn't. Marduk will take the first watch.
Okay. Marduk, go ahead and make a perception check, please.
I rolled a 6.
More tired than you thought. The eyelids grow heavy as darkness descends upon the land. But
Legal urine always makes me sleepy. It's kind of like melatonin.
Luckily, there are no threats that take place, and you kind of rouse yourself after a couple hours of drifting in and out of sleep to wake up the next person.
Right.
I don't think anyone else lacks exhaustion. How does it work to get rid of it? Do we need a full 8 hours?
I believe you just need to complete a long rest. A long rest is 8 hours with at least 6 of it spent sleeping. The other 2 could be spent on watch or doing other duties, reading a book, very low-impact things.
I'll take the second watch.
Okay. Rodor, go ahead and give me a perception check, please, for your watch.
Grodor got an 18.
Rodor is online. With the exception of some small, like antelope-type creatures, you don't see anything during your time on watch.
Cool. I just wake up some random person and say, it's your turn, and I go to bed.
Melody's not tired, so she can take the next one.
Okay, Melody, go ahead and give me the perception check, please.
6.
You're feeling like Marduk, pretty much, where the exhaustion of the day got to you. Let me secretly roll on my random encounters. Nope, nothing for you. So you didn't see anything, and you didn't notice anything, but something happens at the end of your watch. I will quickly need both Rodor and Marduk. I'll need you each for about maybe 3 to 5 minutes. Something happens during both of your sleeps that I want to make you aware of. Headphones off, except for Grodor. And then Marduk, when I text, I'm ready for you, then please come on board.
All right.
You find yourself falling into a very deep, very heavy, very exhausted sleep. Your dreams turn dark, unsettling, if you will. You find yourself stumbling through in your dream the Cinderwold. You're being pursued. And it's much like your first time going into it. It's a frightening place. Dark trees that are bereft of any type of leaf or greenery. The trees burnt looking but glowing with a purple fire as opposed to the more natural yellow or golden or orange fires. It's very filled with moving shadows. You feel like you're being chased. Every time you look over your shoulder as you first start walking, then you start stumbling and kind of running and looking over your shoulder, and then you're flat out running and looking over your shoulder. You see shadows behind you forming into humanoid forms and then dissolving into shadow again, kind of moving from tree to tree as they pursue you through the darkness. Eventually, you stumble into a desolate-looking clearing that's dominated by a huge oak that's burning again with this cold purple flame. This oak is enormous. It's hundreds of feet tall, 50, 60 feet wide. It's enormous. And you recognize this tree as a tree that you first came to when you stumbled upon the Cinderwold looking for a patron long ago. And you hear her, and she says,
In travail, speak out the bone dice of Aragast. Acquire them by any means. It is my will.
And you startle awake. If you want to take off your headphones, I'll go ahead and let Marduk know that I'm ready.
Okay.
For your character, we had talked about you not having recollection of some of your past.
Okay.
If you remember, and you were okay with that, I think?
Yes.
Okay. I want to unveil it as we go through time in the adventures going forward. Can we make it where you don't remember much of anything besides the fact that you lived in a village in what was once called the Everwold, but is now called the Cinderwold because it's burnt to a crisp. You remember bits and pieces of the village life inside the forest, and you certainly remember things about creatures, and you remember idyllic times, but you don't remember what led you to coming into the future.
Am I aware at all that time has passed, or?
Yes, you are aware that you're in the future. You're not sure how.
Okay.
Okay.
That's fine.
So, you fall into a fitful sleep, tossing, turning a bit, deep moments of this all-encompassing heavy sleep, and then moments where you're at the surface almost waking up, but not quite. And then a dream sets in, and you find yourself sitting next to a campfire. Your whole village is turned out. But at this campfire, there's many of them throughout your idyllic village in the Everwold. You are across from Tara, an orcish female around your age, trains with you. She's militant, a defender of the village, goes on patrols with you, someone that you're close with and have had a friendship with. And her name is Akara, A-K-A-R-A. Akara is excited. Tonight is a big night. You're not sure why. You can't remember why in your dream, but it is a huge night. And you're kind of happy that she's chosen to spend this night with you. And so, at a campfire, drinking your mead, you end up playing a game of dice with her. Every match she seems to be winning. There's one or two times where you'll win, but she wins more often than that. And eventually she starts laughing and smiling, and her eyes just light up when she reveals to you that she places the dice in your hand and says, think of a number. And when you do, she says, roll the dice, and you roll them, and the dice appear for that number. They roll that number that you thought. So she thinks that's the funniest thing in the world and just is laughing, and you're consternated at first, but it's hard to stay mad at her when she's just so effervescent and so filled with life tonight, as she's excited about the same thing that you are, which again, you can't quite remember what in the dream. You look at her one last time after your games of dice, and she reaches her hand out to you and says, walk with me. We have time still. She leads you into the woods. If you go with her, I'm not sure. You go
sure.
with her.
I have no reason not to. So yes,
okay.
I would go with her. Yep.
Right. So she leads you into the woods, and she's just looking at you differently than she's ever looked at you in the past. Maybe fleeting glances in the past, but nothing this concentrated and this focused. And it seems to be, for all your intent and all your thinking about it and playing it over in your mind, she seems to be coming on to you. And she seems to be leading you into the woods, and eventually you come to a small clearing, and she says, we have time yet before the ceremony. And she looks at you expectantly.
I ask her, time for what, or what would she like to do?
She smiles, and she unbuttons the first button on her tunic.
I look at her and raise an eyebrow, look around. Are we away from the village?
You are away from the village. You hear cheers and excitement from the village because the time is very close to when something important is supposed to take place. And it's right on the edge. You could tell the anticipation is building, and it's a big deal.
All right. Well, I'm going to gamble, since I'm not quite sure, since I don't have a clear memory of what the ceremony is. I suspect it's maybe a marriage or bonding ritual of some sort, since Marduk is honor-bound in his own way and probably very traditional to the rules of his village. If it does not violate the rules, then I'm going to blindly assume that he would wait for a ceremony to make everything official before he consummated or put any moves on Akara, because he wants to be a respectful and traditional member of his tribe, of his clan.
So do you say something to her? Do you say we must head back, or what do you tell her, knowing that the time is short?
Then I say, let the ceremony commence, and then it will be proper and right.
The look on her face is crushing. She, at first, is disbelieving. Then she is confused. And then she looks at you with a white hot, like, anger in her eyes. Which, she's an orc, so it's not, I mean, this isn't unexpected, right? You guys are passionate creatures. She comes up to you, and you're not sure if she's gonna punch you or walk past you or put a shoulder into you as she walks past. But she puts both hands onto your chest, kind of somewhat unexpectedly, and shoves you backwards, like in anger. You can't quite catch yourself. You catch your foot on a root or some stone or something that was on the ground, and you fall backward, and the last thing you remember is your head hitting the stone, and you going blank as blues and purples engulf the tree that she's standing in front of.
Blues and purple, like energy?
Like flame and energy that's blue and purple engulf the tree behind her. That's the only tree you can see right now, so you don't know if there's more or not. But your vision is just filled with blues and purple flame and her standing over you as your head hits the rock and you go unconscious. Okay, we go back to the game now.
All right.
So, Melody, you had your watch. You had heavy eyes. You probably weren't as perceptive as you would have liked to have been. Right towards the end of your watch, you're startled by Rodor and Marduk coming out of their sleep with a gasp each and kind of bolting straight upright at the exact same time.
I imagine I have my own little bolts about that. That's okay.
An odd dream.
Oh, yeah, I had a really odd dream.
And you were there, and you, and you?
No.
No.
No one I know was here. In fact, I do not wish to speak of it.
Okay. We all have those dreams. It's all right.
Well, I don't have to change my shorts if that's what you mean, but no, it's just, I'm good.
Well, you all did your shifts. You can just go back to sleep. I'll find somebody else. If this happens again and it starts to become something that makes it hard for you to sleep, you know.
Actually, Marduk will briefly, I'll check my torso or my chest where I was pushed. Do I have any type of marks or anything, or?
You do not.
All right, I don't feel any weird.
And you don't have a headache.
Talk about it in the morning. I'm still tired.
Okay.
Gabrielle will step in for the next watch.
Okay.
I point out the two that had weird dreams and say, make sure they're not, like, losing sleep over some weird stuff happening.
I would be impressed if they managed to sneak by me.
Well, I don't expect them to sleepwalk or anything. I'm just saying, like, if they're tossing and turning and they're not getting good rest, then maybe we'll try a sedative or something next time.
More wine, says Grodor.
That'll put you right to sleep. Throughout the night, throughout my watch, I'm going to use Divine Sense to sense evil a couple of different times, because I don't actually know, but better safe than sorry, and it refreshes on a long rest, so.
Okay.
May as well make sure. It's 60 feet, just in case things are flying overhead. Sure. And other than that, I'll roll my
Perception check, please.
Oh, yeah. Rolled a 2. I added 1. She's so focused on looking for evil, she doesn't quite pay attention to the worldly problems.
What was it you said earlier? You'd be impressed if they could sneak by you?
Yeah. Okay. And then she stares into the ether all night.
Yes. Luckily for you, it's a quiet night in the Redlands. There's nothing that sneaks up on you to startle you and attack you. No creatures moving about except for benign hares, maybe like large rabbits moving in the underbrush and such. But nothing worth any note, and if there was, you wouldn't have seen it anyways. So
praise be to Amira for watching for me.
Yes, Amira definitely watched over you tonight. No evil detected on your several castings of your spell. You wake up Alder, the last of, 10 hours of rest as opposed to 8, and that's certainly okay to do. I just don't know if you wanted to do that.
Well, if it's not necessary, I don't think we should.
It's 6 a.m. and everyone's gotten an 8-hour rest with 2 hours of, except for Alder, 2 hours of being on watch or whatever.
When she wakes me up and everyone else is waking up, I then spend a little time making breakfast because I'm not exhausted anymore. I know we only have, not the best supplies for breakfast here, but I'll see what I can do.
All right. You can put together a decent breakfast for everyone over the campfire that's still flickering as it's been fed throughout the night by the different people on watch. When everyone wakes up, it's about 6 a.m., so the sun is just rising in the east, the direction that you're traveling in. Everyone loses a level of exhaustion if they had one. Seems to be a warm start to the day. You're in the Redlands now, out of the mountains, so this is a very hot, dry area. It's a little bit uncomfortable already, but you've got a full day of travel ahead of you, and I would say you can break camp probably by 7:30 or so after an hour and a half of eating and toiletries and whatever else needs to take place. And I don't know if anyone wants to talk about what happened last night, but they certainly don't have to if they don't want to. But there's time over breakfast to do that if you want or when you're on the road.
Yeah, I'm not aware of it, so right. I do speak with Melody. How's that little paper dragon doing?
It's been okay. I've worried about having to feed it, and my current worry is about rain. Doesn't seem likely here, but will eventually be a problem. And then there's the matter of, I was supposed to deliver this.
The book?
It was not supposed to be alive, but it was supposed to, I don't know what brought it about, actually raised it. The document I got with it in the box said that it could not be brought to life under multiple attempts, and then I just find it in there tapping.
Well, your destiny is a bit more important than the average.
Okay, so I just take it?
Well, I'm just curious what else was in that box that might have caused that.
It could have been something we experienced while traveling. I don't really know.
It was sitting next to a kind of a dark ritual.
Oh, right, and then it devoured it fairly instantaneously?
Yep.
We have been exposed to magics, and we are carrying some items of power, so maybe something has happened.
Didn't you say it's chock full of books on the inside, so maybe it's got its own instruction manual in there somewhere?
If it has, I haven't found it yet. We have a basic communication going, so there's that.
I think you currently have it in journal form. The last time I remember you changing it was to journal, but you didn't really read it all that much because you were exhausted and there just wasn't time.
Yeah, if that's the case, I would have turned it back to give it, rerun of the place while I did not read it.
Okay, good to know. So it's in dragon form, in Drake form right now.
Indeed.
Okay.
Well, if someone expects its delivery and you've agreed to do so, it would be a mark against your character with whoever it is. Were you not to deliver it? I mean, they're sure to know it's a Drake. I'm not sure you'd be able to hide this little one.
I could hide him in any number of... Yes, I could hide him in any number of forms, but I know that it would be a mark against my character, thank you. It did cross my mind.
I just mean with them. I'm not saying you would be a sinner. You're already a sinner, darling.
I know. Thank you. I guess this is a conversation we can have when we get to where it's going. I believe I have to drop it to someone in Tarask.
Do you have the note that was given along with it? Did you write it down, Melody, or do you want me to bring it up on the screen so you can redo it? Not that it's important. I'm just saying I want you to have access to it when you need to have access to it. So if you wanted to show people, if you wanted to review it yourself, I can bring it back up on the screen if that's necessary.
Yeah, if you could.
I'm not necessarily concerned about who you have to deliver it or the fact that you have to deliver it. I'm interested in what benefit it's giving you or us. And perhaps I'm wrong, and it's not. Just find it interesting. It does seem to be unique.
It definitely is that.
One of the things that kind of strikes me with this, and maybe this is just me hoping, but the part where it says the secrets contained within this creature's pages are the key to profound power, and we have a staff that we're looking for a cipher key to unlock its power.
I've already had the creature try to decipher the ruins on the staff.
Well,
Right.
he might not be able to decipher it, but he might not know he's got something written somewhere inside him that can help.
Right.
The key to
I'm sure
find
there
the key.
are other amazing sources of power that it might be related
When
to.
I went into my stupor and fell unconscious, I was within the library of this creature. It had 5 books, and I learned 4 of their names.
Really?
You missed one?
Yeah, it was a large vellum tome, like thin sheets of deerskin, and I don't know its name. I did manage to figure out. Holds out her hand for the Drake. Evil, travel, hope, and prevail, and it turns into the Evil Grimoire, tome on Orcish histories, it seems, a diary with hope, and an atlas with travail.
That's what I'm talking about. That's interesting.
And I just simply haven't had the time to read these, so while they might be helpful to us, I'd certainly like a chance before I hand it over to whomever requires it.
Did you say an Atlas of Travail?
The word travail brings up an atlas. Travail is a town. It may have been an atlas that was purchased in that town, or a scribe there wrote it.
Well, it's
Could ask
funny.
around when we get there.
It's funny that you mentioned Travail, because I had an odd dream last night, and you know how my patron has helped us in the past, waking me up and you guys up to offer help when you guys were being attacked. And I'm not sure if this was under the same, or if this is just something that my patron wants or wants me to do, but she mentioned to me in this dream, she wants me to seek somebody in Travail and acquire something, which was just odd that you guys mentioned Travail. Apparently there's an Aragast there that has bone dice that I must acquire.
Are you a gambler?
No.
Anyone who's anyone can make a check. For the 3 people who have traveled extensively, Melody, Grodor, and Marduk, you can make this roll with advantage. So everyone make a history check, please.
Gabrielle rolled a 17.
Marduk rolled an 8.
Grodor also rolled an 8.
Grodor, you have advantage, so you get 1 more roll.
Ah. Oh, 18, much better.
Melody rolled a 25.
Alder rolled a natural 1. He's like not a traveler.
That's apropos for sure. Melody specifically, and Grodor, you have kind of a memory of this. Aragast is the dwarven pillar of Travail. So he is the individual, the pillar being the mayor and also the holy leader of a given town or city or village.
And are bone dice a known thing for gambling or...
If your patron sent it, I would assume it's more of a supernatural element.
Bone dice could be used for games of chance. They could be used in certain types of divination, right?
Augury.
Those are probably the 2 main uses that you could think of. It's not an uncommon material to make dice out of.
You know, the thing that's troubling is it's the must acquire part of this message. Like, we need to have these for probably either something we have or something we're going to be needing in the future. And he might not want to part with them. So that'd be interesting.
Did you get the feeling that he might not want to part with them as part of your dream? Or
No,
is that just intuition?
That's just intuition. If there's something of value to us, it's probably something of value to him. And
I agree with you that you probably won't want to part with them unless he gets something in return.
And I'd hate to steal, but we may need to.
We'll see.
I'm not overly concerned.
And I glance over at Marduk. Is any of this like raising an eyebrow over there?
No.
No.
I do have a question. You said there was a book that you know, but you don't know the name of it, so therefore the dragon can't turn into it?
I'm sure that if I knew the word, the dragon would turn into it. I've got a Pee-wee's Playhouse my way into the secret word. There's a better way to say that.
Wow, that's not, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's not in universe, that's for sure.
Hopefully guess or divinate the correct word for the book because it doesn't have one written on the cover.
I suppose I could ask a divination expert, but none of these books had covers with titles, per se.
Do you have a description of it? Perhaps
I mentioned
Grodor?
earlier that it is a large vellum book.
Made of
Like-
deerskin.
Yeah, thin deerskin.
What made you recognize the titles of the other four? Were they just written right on the spine?
There was a magical element to trying to approach them, and when I was able to overcome it, I figured out the word. If I were able to travel back to that place, I could definitely make an attempt, but
Was there a magical element that you failed to approach on this one?
y'all pulled me out of that dream.
Oh.
Dreams are the work of I want to say the Onoroy, but I don't want to pronounce it wrong.
I don't know what that means.
It's an angel. It's
Okay.
not something
You
that
just say angel.
you're likely to get a second crack at. They tend to have a purpose to their individual dreams.
It may not have been a dream. I mean, this creature is
You're
magical.
right. It did force you into a fugue.
It's a
I
bit
might
of a
be
vision more than anything
over-applying
else.
what I think is true.
That definitely applies to these folks, though.
Oh, yes. Speaking of, Marduk, you awoke at the same moment. Did Grodor simply spook you? Or
don't
was
know.
something very personal that happened to you?
No one was in my dream from this camp. It was something from my past, and I'm still trying to understand it, but
And I think it's a little
related.
weird that we both had weird-ass dreams and woke up at the same time. That's a little weird.
Well,
But if you think it's something that shouldn't be shared,
the thing is, it feels like it was a private situation, but I honestly don't know. The more I think about it, though, I was perhaps being enticed or seduced or lured, possibly.
I was being chased.
I don't
If
know
you
how else to
want to
explain
bring it up to the pillar when we get into Travail, you might have some insight. They're usually, or at
Yeah,
least know
actually.
someone with spiritual advice.
it. Right.
I don't
Unfortunately,
want to
yeah.
pry into your own
Nope.
business, but do mention if something comes up about it. Prophetic
Right.
dreams are abounding, it seems.
everyone but me.
Don't be
Gabrielle
mad,
is
you're already
hoping.
secret descendant of the High Exarch, so you got that going for you.
I start cleaning up, packing everything away because we're done with breakfast. But when we're getting ready to leave, I do have a question, Grodor, and one for everyone in general.
That older.
Grodor, you mentioned that your patron was a she.
Yes.
Do we know any more details about that?
I believe she was once Fae. I've been trying to research my patron and figure out what her history is, and what exactly her motives could or could be these days, because she is a long-lived patron.
I find it intriguing that you, who have a patron, and you believe that your dream had something to do with your patron, seem to be somewhat linked to Marduk, who is definitely a believer and a follower of Amira.
I
Yet
believe
you guys had the same time period that you had a dream, and you both woke up at the same instant.
well,
That just seems rather odd to me.
And what I've been researching is, and trying to find information on, is the relationship between my patron and Amira. I believe there is history there. I'm trying to figure out how well they knew each other and what the relationship was, but I got the general feeling, though I'm not sure if it was the feeling I was meant to feel or the feeling that was there, but that they are working together, at least at this time, to figure things out and to accomplish things. They were definitely working together before she disappeared.
Interesting.
Do you get the feeling they're still working together after? Efforts being made? Because, well, never
I
mind.
think she wants me to figure out what happened to Amira.
It could be something like the debt between them was never paid, but I'm always cautious
Just,
about
yeah,
otherworldly entities.
Grodor, who is your patron? What's your patron's name again?
good question.
I don't know what your patron is, so I'm not trying to.
Well, Grodor has repeatedly said she,
That's what I figured.
and
Okay.
Grodor also said Faye. So
I believe at one time she may have evolved into something else.
The reason why I'm thinking it or even asking it is your patron is a trickster or seducer part of her
I don't think so.
gig?
No, her gig, as far as I can tell, was just knowledge and
Okay. I was trying to stretch to find a connection. I thought, oh, maybe,
yeah.
like, cause yeah, I don't understand why we experienced two different but simultaneous things. Something that Groder said does trigger another detail from my dream, and that was that someone from my tribe who I don't fully remember, but apparently I was close to, we were playing dice. And I was losing everything. I was losing every roll no matter what. She had an incredible run of luck, or I had a run of bad luck, but she was winning every toss and I was failing.
Ah.
But it wasn't, I didn't get the sense that it was sinister, or if anything, it seemed to be kind of playful and funny, but it was odd.
Imagine if you're going to win all the time dice, or the other person will lose all the time dice.
Well, that makes me think that someone is influencing fate, either for us or against us. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But like Mel said, maybe once I talk to somebody a little bit more learned in dream telling, that maybe I can find some more insight.
This is absolutely not what I thought breakfast would be like.
Yeah.
But alas, I think we do need to start traveling.
Agreed.
Otherwise, Marduk will start yelling at us.
Is there anyone still exhausted from the travel?
I am not, no.
I don't think anybody got the 2.
No,
Okay.
I took my armor off on the second leg of the trip very wisely.
Would anyone like to take a peek at the book contained within tome here?
The Atlas Travail thing sounds, I'm
Yeah,
kind of curious
let's-
I
about
did
that.
have a
that.
question about the book. It may be silly, but does the book have an index?
I believe I was in the index when I had my vision.
Okay.
Do you believe you could go back?
Maybe. I'll have a staring contest someday with Tom, and we'll see if I can head back there. But for today, I want to get the most I can out of these books before I have to turn them over.
Valid opinion.
You break camp. The horses are hitched up and ready to go. For today, you know that with the increased time that you made yesterday, you realize that you'll hit Travail instead of right at the end of the day, you'll hit Travail more like the middle of the afternoon or so, which is going to be nice. Usually you've been rolling into towns like at the end of your travels each day, and there hasn't been a lot of time to decompress or pass through if you wanted to. At this point, you know that through your travels, you'll be able to either push through Travail if you want to and continue on to the other side, where normally with your normal pacing, you were going to stop at Travail for the night. So it's up to you to decide how you want to handle that. But deeper into the Redlands you go. You travel for several hours through what's can only be described as a blistering heat. It's uncomfortable. There's not a lot of cloud cover. You're using more water than usual. It's a rough terrain. After several hours pass, there are some hills that are starting to appear. But again, these are covered in very little foliage at all. And you break for lunch when you see the first caravan, which must be coming from Travail towards Iron Sword Pass. So it's heading to the west. It's approaching you. And it's a relatively sizable caravan. And I'm assuming that you're probably stopping off the side of the road for lunch, taking a quick break.
Gabrielle can take care of the horses, but she's a bit distracted staring at the environment because she's never been to this side of the country and she didn't know that mountains got this pretty. Well,
Right.
deserts.
As Gabrielle takes care of the horses, I will patrol a perimeter and just kind of get a sense of our current stop and look for any type of dangers.
What kind
Right.
of goods are coming out of Travail? And
Travail is known throughout Amira as the merchant city. It's also known as the city of mercenaries. It's also known as the city of banners. It has several names. It is a stopping off point before Iron Sword Pass or a stopping off point right after you travel through Iron Sword Pass. So goods that are traveling from Western Amira to Eastern Amira, or even from different countries, like Eastern Roving Wilds will have caravans that they'll send up through Tarask first and then through Travail. But Travail's that last stop before things get serious. Before you hit the Redlands and the Desolation, and then you hit the mountain pass of Iron Sword Pass. So it's a very important stopping off point for caravans. And also people hire mercenaries because if you're going from Travail to Western Amira, so you're going through the pass and through the Redlands, you're usually going to hire extra help to make sure you're not accosted by creatures or bandits along the way. On the inverse, if you're traveling from Western Emira to Eastern Emira and you hit Travail, Travail's the last stop before you travel very uncomfortably close to the Cinderwold. The Cinderwold is a forest of purple flame, so burnt, destroyed trees for tens of miles, glowing with a purple or a blue flame that seems to be without heat, but has destroyed the forest in a magical fire. It is shrouded in magical smoke. It's a very dangerous place in your country. It is probably the most dangerous place in your country. And if you're going to travel really close to it, basically with nothing but a river separating you, the Barren River, you would like to hire mercenaries usually to help guard your caravans if you're going to be traveling that way as well. So it's a city of mercenaries that is known throughout the lands for having them available for hire. It's also known as the city of banners because it...
Main exort is sellswords?
Well, banners for that reason, yes. That's a very good reason. It's a dual meaning for sellswords. But it's also because the streets don't have names. They have banner colors that run along them. So like flapping banners in the wind, they have ropes that go across the street. There's the street of red banners, and there's the street of blue banners and black banners, and etc. So the main streets of the town or the city have these banners that fly over them, but also because of the sellswords that are part of the city as well. That is Travail. So a large caravan looking to be military in nature approaches, a lot of soldiers on horseback, a lot of wagons laden down. You can tell they're very heavy, whatever they're carrying, probably swords and weaponry. I'd say there's probably about 12 to 15 wagons. So it's a sizable caravan that is heading deeper into the Redlands and towards Iron Sword Pass.
I'll probably hail someone who's in charge scouting ahead, just letting them know about the dangers we narrowly escaped.
Okay. They certainly appreciate that. They thank you for the news of the Draxus. And
also asking if there's anything we need to worry about for the rest of the way to Travail.
He tells you that there's two bits of news that he's come across. First is war is upon us. The lawgivers have attacked Harrow's Gate in the northwest of Emira. And they've also began an assault on Morn Keep on the northeast of Emira. So the two choke points that protect your land against the lawgivers have been attacked. And that's grave news. There's not a lot of merriment and cheer in the soldiers. They're very serious.
Well, Harrow's Gate has never fallen, and you're headed into that territory.
Also, news from Travail is grim. The pillar, Aragast, has died.
Oh, jeez.
And he's lying in state at the Hall of Heroes in Travail. Something that happened yesterday.
Is there news how he died?
He contacted some sort of ailment. He was an older dwarf. He wasn't ancient by any stretch of imagination. A line of dwarves have been pillars in Travail for decades, centuries even. Aragast is from a long line of dwarves, and he developed a malady of some sort, a sickness that just ate away at him, and none of the healers could find a way to heal it. And he passed. And unless there's more questions, he wishes you a good day because he needs to get back to the caravan. He was a scout ahead, now he's fallen behind. He bids you farewell and safe travels and Amira's blessing. And basically,
he did mention the harpies as well as the...
Okay. Yeah, he certainly was very appreciative of all the information you shared with him. And then he snaps the reins down and his horse moves forward.
I think that's literally the worst news I've ever received.
Yeah.
The war is on, and a major political figure that I expected to go talk to is dead.
Having lots of coincidences.
Yeah, and he passed right about during the night when we had those weird dreams, which is just too much of a coincidence.
Ooh.
Speaking of, was that the witching hour, perhaps? Midnight?
Such a concept exists in this world?
Does such a concept?
If there was such a concept, it didn't align to the best of your knowledge by looking at the stars during your watch.
That was when my watch started, is the only reason I mentioned.
It was probably around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Fair enough. Just curious. As morbid as it is to think you need something from his estate, we should double time.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if my dream of somebody following or chasing me was an indication that someone else is maybe trying to acquire the same items, just like they're trying to acquire the same items in the HoloLands.
But you had a dream where I'm sorry, you said it was a nightmare. You didn't explain the details, I suppose. That could have included a chase sequence.
Yeah, there was a chase sequence before I got the message.
Mm.
It's running through the Cinderwald.
Your past with the Cinderwald, it was very frightening, and your ideas matched up with your prior experience with the Cinderwald, but also could be an indication that someone else is looking for something. It's a very good, with all the dots that are connecting, it certainly is a viable explanation as well.
I'm sorry everyone's dreams are so dreadful tonight.
Yeah.
But if we're interested in something in his estate, we should double time. There's sure to be some kind of settlement for all that.
Makes me worry what we'll find in Torask when we get to my family's estate.
How morbid.
Oh, my mom is
No.
stationed there.
Your mother works in Torask?
Yeah, she's part of the Soul. Yeah.
I wasn't aware your family had a history of civil service.
Oh yeah. That's rare to find a hobgoblin that doesn't have a history in some
Or at
sort
least
of.
know someone who does.
I'm not quite clear on the stereotypes of the races of the world, so I appreciate the knowledge.
Yeah. Military is where a lot of people end up or drift into. My mom is part of the guard in Torres. My dad's part of the watch in Dolgi Keep.
Dolbug.
Dolgug.
We call it Dolgi.
Talking about the Cinderwald, though, guys, how much do you guys know about the history of the Cinderwald?
I mean, it's from the time of the Ruin Lords stomping around, causing mischief.
Right. If I
Scar
understand
of theirs.
correct, that's where they stepped into the world in a reflection of where Amira and her host stepped into the world. That was,
Reverend Wield.
Yeah. I have like literal scripture quotes, and that's it. So tell me, what do you know about the Cinderwald?
Well, the Cinderwald.
We are moving while we're having
Yes,
this
of course.
discussion.
The Cinderwald is the result of a epic battle between the good and evil forces back in the day with the gods fighting it out. From what I can understand, both sides were trying to recruit my patron into their side to help out because she was like probably one of the most powerful non-gods.
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted nothing to do with either side. So when I was looking for a patron, I was looking for a patron that had a history of being able to live longer than most people's normal lives are, because the longer you live, the more you learn. Looking for,
You looked for immortality.
I was looking for immortality in a patron, someone who had some sort of inkling in it.
No idea you could shop around like that.
Yeah, well, there's lots of patrons, and they all have their specialties and their things that they do the best. And it was hard to find one, but I saw a hint of a patron that had such powers, but she was only a patron for a short amount of time before she disappeared and stopped doing her patronly stuff. She just fell off the earth in the map, and it happened, from what I can tell, she disappeared right about the time the Cinderwald was created.
You had records from that long ago.
There's hints. This is like...
Okay, so you studied multiple sources to come across what you believe is the truth.
Yeah, multiple sources, talked to tons of people trying to figure this stuff out. And it was just a hint that they had something to do with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the Cinderwald to see if I could figure out some more clues for myself about if this patron does exist. And bad idea for someone who is not as experienced in traveling as I was. I've never been to a place like that before, and that place is hard to get actually into and easy to get lost in, and it's
That's exactly the right kind of journey, though. You made an almost religious pilgrimage.
Yeah.
It's inspiring.
Yeah, I basically got lost and found an area in there, and that's where I found my patron. And what I learned was that she was imprisoned in the Cinderwall. They made the Cinderwall trying to corral her and to punish her for, I think she had like druidic powers where she was bouncing around from tree to tree, trying to escape both sides. And I think the evil side was pissed off about the fact that she wouldn't join them, so they decided to just take her out, like join us or die.
Mm-hmm.
She was immortal, so they couldn't kill her, so they imprisoned her in one of these burning trees.
When you say burning trees, do you mean that they wreathe all the trees in purple flames?
Yeah, like internal purple flames. Like they're never going to be reduced to ash. They're just constantly burning.
That was part of my dream too. Now I saw the beginning of that. At least I think it was the beginning of that happen.
Yeah, and she was basically imprisoned in this tree, which was like, now she's being burned to death, but never dying in a tree that's always burning, which is why she stopped taking people.
She has to spend all her energy to keep the forest alive as these eternal flames try to burn it down.
So I've been doing research as to what's been going on, and I believe that her imprisonment in this tree is not permanent as the people who put her in there originally thought. I think she's been working to get herself out of this tree with possibly the help of Amira, or to quicken the pace.
Of you, Grodor.
Well, yeah, and I offered my help to try to finish what they started.
You offered to put her out of her misery?
No, to get her out of the tree so she can be free to move about the world instead of being stuck in the Cinderworld.
A creature trapped in a burning tree forever, unable to die, does not sound like a creature I would want to get immortality from. I worry for you.
Presupposing that this spirit is worthy of Amira's respect, which I must because Amira respected it, but I assume Amira knows what she's doing, then if you work towards its recovery, it's a noble goal.
It sounds like before the Cinderworld was so scarred, it was a place similar to the Reverend Weald.
Part of the Cinderworld was scarred. It was part of the Everworld.
It was
Indeed.
a beautiful
The Everworld
place.
branched to the other side of the river, and this part of it was scorched. And there are actually people in the Cinderworld who are doing what they can to try to reverse the curse so it can once again be a place of life instead of burnt.
Be lovely for Tarask. What we get from the river down there is nigh undrinkable, I want to say. I don't know if there's actually ash in this river.
There is not. It's called the Barren River, but it does provide normal sustenance that water provides.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's not a normal fire that produces ash.
That's true, but all the life-giving properties of these trees have been sucked out, so I was wondering if maybe the river had been similarly poisoned.
Right. It seems to still be able to function as a normal operational river. It's not a lush area of wildlife. It's like a river running through. If you look, runs just north of the Hollowlands. So there's a lot of rough terrain on the southern side of the Barren River. There's a lot of more
Verdant.
verdant, pastoral.
I suppose I would say that
north.
a return to greenery would help the climate a lot in that area.
According to the religious scholars, the Everworld was pretty much torn in half when the Cinderworld was created. But at one time, it was all one large forest that rivaled the Reverend Weald for influence and power of the elven and the fey creatures who live within it.
I'm sorry for the suspicion with which I treated you, Grodor. Your cause is a noble one. Glad we had a chance to talk about it.
I am just hoping that the Ashen Lady's cause is a noble one as well.
Well, if it isn't, I'll be here to help you make your way free of this. If it's a trick enough to fool Amira, and that is an impressive blasphemy.
I appreciate the tale, but are you going to read that book?
Yeah. I'm already a quarter of the way through it.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate
He
it.
was reading while we were talking.
I had no idea you could do that.
So you travel and you spend the last 2 hours of your trip. So it's 2 or 3 in the afternoon. By the time you pass between 2 small hills, you see the dusty city of Travail unfold before you. Travail, it's a city without very many large landmarks. A lot of 1- and 2-story brick buildings. Some of it is clay buildings. It is spread out over a pretty wide area, though. And in the middle of it is the one towering structure, which is the Hall of Heroes. Probably a good 3 stories tall with domed ceiling to it. It has these bright blue tiles on it, on the dome. It's made of white marble. It actually very much draws to mind the architecture of Temerity, the capital, with its marble walls and its blue tiles. It's very similar to that, and it sits right in the middle of this town. There is a wall around the town. It's only about 6 to 8 foot in most places. It's not a towering wall like you saw with Iron Sword City. It's just a low city. It's the best way to describe it. There's just not a lot of height to it, except for the Hall of Heroes. And you see outside the walls, there's several caravanseries that surround the city, to the east and to the west, where the road known as the South Way passes. You approach from the west and heading towards the gates on the western side of the town, and you come to an area where caravans can park, and the closest one to you is called the Watering Hole. You're more than welcome to stop there or to proceed somewhere else if you wish.
I spent some time in the roving wilds with caravans. I had some discretionary years, like 2 or so, just traveling. I think I know a caravan master here in Travail that can help us out. So Melody's going to lead folk to a friend who can set us up.
So you pull into the Watering Hole. We'll say the caravansery's owner is Rurik. So you pull into the caravansery, and there are several buildings that make up the interior of it, but there's also a large yard where the caravans park. And since it's the middle of the day, there's not a lot of activity right now. So a couple of caravansery hands come up, take the horses and lead them off, take down some information of who you are, and they tell you where they're going to park the horses at and where they're going to water them and feed them. And they ask for 5 silver pieces per horse.
I'll do that.
I can handle that.
I have some money left over from this paper drake, that bounty, so I don't mind.
Okay.
There is a bar which is not very creatively called the Watering Hole. So it is the same name of the caravansery, and it is mostly empty right now. It's a large wooden structure. It's only 1 floor though, but it's got a lot of room inside of it. A long bar. There's a hobgoblin keeping bar. There's some waitresses of mixed different races taking orders of the few patrons who are in the bar right now.
Is the bartender Rurik, the caravan master, or is he elsewhere?
He is the owner, who is sometimes found in the bar, and for simplicity's sake, we'll say that he is found in the bar at this time. So there is
not necessarily
a bartender,
being bartender, but just relaxing.
Exactly.
Well, if he's not busy with anyone, I'd like to queue up and say hi. Could he be an orc? And that way he has ties to our family.
Sure. Urzoth, Snow Beast.
Well, I'm gonna spend 5 silver getting a pitcher of wine and settling in beside him. Gonna wave my friends over. I don't mind introducing them all. This is how caravans typically come through anyway, with a bunch of newbies.
Well, the first thing he does is he embraces you. It's nice to see people he knows and that he cares about. So he embraces you fully, puts a big meaty hand on your shoulder and squeezes it tight. Good to see you. Good to see you. What can I do for you?
We're looking for a place to stay on my way back home. There's a bit of bad news going around here, so I just wanted to make sure. I heard that the pillar died recently.
Yes, it's a sad day. Sad day for our city.
I'm concerned. Is it an illness that seems to have spread?
Luckily, no. The illness just struck him. Just Aragast got sick. His wife was unaffected, think Amira. And it took him quickly, though. He was sick and dead within a week.
That is a shame. We were looking for some spiritual guidance when we came in. There's been bizarre happenings on the road, and I would like some insight into them.
Only as bizarre as the state of the world right now. But yeah.
I would think Vanna is grieving. He is laying in state at the Hall of Heroes, and I would assume she's at his side.
That's fair. I would like to pay my respects. This here is my company, bringing me back home. They have their own business there afterwards, but that's how caravans do.
A friend of yours is a friend of mine.
And you all are welcome to ask questions at this point.
I greet him in the old way of my village.
He is a little taken aback because he's not used to that type of greeting, but he smiles widely and says, "Pleasure to meet you."
I nod in agreement.
Insight. I want to roll to understand that the thing that he did was awkward even for orcs.
Okay.
I don't understand that.
No.
I rolled a total of 6.
It seems like just a strange orcish custom to you. It's very odd.
It's weird that orcs are so embarrassed when they properly introduce themselves. Gabrielle keeps to herself, though.
We're not sniffing each other's butts like dogs. I mean, come on, it's not that bad.
Well, and if there's no restrictions with illness or anything, we are probably going to make our way into town. Give our condolences from one exemplar to a pillar.
He tells you when you're finished paying your respects to come back for dinner. You would like to hear more of your travels and hear more of your family. So the caravansary, the watering hole, is outside of the town or city of Travail. I'm assuming that all of you are going to pay your respects, or is everyone
Actually, I have a question. If Vanna is in mourning, who's seeing about the necessities of the city at large? Because rather than disturb a widow in her moment of grief, it might be better to speak to whoever's running the city in her absence. And his absence. Both of the Noric's absence. Do you know who's running things?
He does not. He said, I'm not certain of the power structure. I would assume they come to her still because she maybe will assume the place, or one of his sons. I am not certain.
All right. That is still a help, Eric. We'll approach with caution. We won't try to disturb her. Maybe someone will beg us off before we even bother her.
If nothing more, then he welcomes you back when you're finished with your business. You can have dinner with him before you depart. You then make your way as a group into Travail, and it is a warm day, as I mentioned. There's not a ton of foot traffic on the city streets. Typically a time of the day, and some of you who travel would know that it's similar to a siesta, where they take an afternoon break during the hottest time of the sun to allow for rest and relaxation, and then come back out around 5 or 6 when the time has passed. The sun is not nearly as aggressive and as difficult to deal with and exhausting. So it's easy to make your way through the streets, even though none of you are super familiar with the city. The towering edifice that is the Hall of Heroes is easy to find in this spread out city. You make your way there probably with about a 10-minute walk or so, and find yourselves approaching the Hall of Heroes. And there are guards about. There are people forming a line outside of the Hall of Heroes. It looks to be typical citizens of Travail. So there's a line that snakes from the inside of the Hall of Heroes out into the walkway. And it's not very long. Again, it's the hottest part of the day right now. You could put yourselves right about where you're putting yourselves on the map right now, a good 10 or 15 feet outside of the hall. That's where you are stuck in line waiting for your chance to pay respects. You eventually, within maybe a half hour or so, make your way inside the Hall of Heroes. The hall itself on the inside is very well put together. It's very impressive. A lot of marble, like I said, a lot of alcoves with statues in them, a lot of pillars with engravings in them, with the history of various leaders and various exploits that the city of Travail has undergone and survived from, the history of the town, the history of its heroes, of its pillars, of its leaders. And in the middle, there's that large circular engraving in the floor of marble, and then a pillar of marble on top of it, and then reposed on that the form of an older dwarf in his finery, laid upon it with his wife with grayish hair streaked with black and wearing black herself in a black veil next to him, holding herself together fairly well. seems sad, and you make your way to the altar. Yeah, you make your way to the altar, and we'll end it there. Thank everyone for listening tonight, and thank everyone for playing. I love the backstories being revealed and the dream sequences being revealed. I thought everyone did a great job of role-playing tonight. So great job there. And thank you for the listeners for hanging on with us for this episode. Good night, everyone. Great job. But everyone role-played really well tonight. Good job.
Thank you for listening to Knights of the Night Actual Play Podcast. If you'd like to send us a question, comment, or feedback, you can reach us in a number of ways, including Twitter @KOTN_podcast or by emailing us at feedback@KOTNpodcast.com. And don't forget the iTunes reviews. We also have a Facebook page which can be found at facebook.com/KOTN.podcast. While on Facebook, you can join like-minded folks at our fan page at facebook.com/groups/KOTN-fan. And lastly, there's our blog at KOTNpodcast.com, where there's an Amazon link on the right-hand side for those of you who'd like a more steady way to help us pay the bills. Or if you live outside the U.S., you can help by donating to our Patreon page at patreon.com/KOTN. And please remember to join us next week for more mystery and adventure.
No surprise. I upset the woman and don't know why or for what.
There's no explanation, of course.
Yeah, I'm wrong. I'm just wrong. Yeah, that I know.
So we all dead yet?
Not yet.
Oh, that's
I
pretty
keep
good.
trying, but you guys are really good at this game. So we're just waiting on Alder, I think, who might be taking care of a crying baby at this moment.
How do you roll nothing and get 60?
That's a good question.
It's impressive.
Oh,
That's a success.
That used to be a firebolt with a range of 60 feet, and then I said, I'm not ever going to be a sorcerer. What was I thinking?
Okay.
I was
No wonder
testing
it's gone.
mechanics out.
Do you recall the name we used, Grodor, or are you just being coy because you don't care to share?
Yeah,
It's okay if you don't. I just wanted to make sure in case you forgot because it's been months since we last talked about it.
Which sounds kind of arrogant. I'm sorry. Yes, it is a pleasure to meet me. I'm sorry, that's the wrong way to say that. I exchanged pleasantries with him, but I respectfully be silent because I'm in his house.
Sorry, I was exaggerating for the sake of my failure more than
I see.
that you were a strange man.
I'm sorry. I strike that, reverse it.
Don't worry, Marduk. It's perfectly normal, I think. I'm fairly sure.
And then you can splice that in. Good luck, Deb.
Thanks, Scott.
Other possible titles for this episode available for voting on the Facebook fan page were Pee-wee's Playhouse, My Way into the Secret Word, Search for Truth, Justice, and War Eagle Urine, Not Sniffing Each Other's Butts Like Dogs, and One Exemplar to a Pillar.